Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have 7 minutes, but in aviation, it's enough time to get to where we have to go to. So fasten your seatbelts. My name is Tunde Oyekola. That's just part of my name. Full name is Mansour Baba Tunde Oyekola. The Mansour is not a guy name. My father was a Muslim. And so technically, I shouldn't be where I am. But God, who knows the end from the beginning, orchestrated things in such a way that one day, I was about 10 years old. I went out with my dad, and we're very close. And there was a painting we saw, and my dad asked me if I knew what the painting meant. And I tried to describe what I was seeing. And he broke it down for me. And basically what he was telling me was that the painting you had seen was the proverbial broad way and narrow way. This is my Muslim father. And that if you follow the broad way, it leads to perdition. And there were many people gaily dressed on the broad way. And if you follow the narrow way, and the narrow way, there was a tiny gate, and it leads to where God is, and that's light. And that made an impression in my heart. So my father preached that message to me. But not too long after that, I was in grade school, grade 6. And there was a teacher who came into the school and would gather us children together talking to us. And one day, he told us about, God and what he stood for, and that if we wanted to serve him, we should give our lives to Christ. And what my dad had said to me resonated. So, of course, I stood up, and that's how I got saved. I wasn't 11 yet. But nobody at home knew what had happened. But what's very interesting about all this is that I learned about the power of choice from the testimony of my dad. But not only that, I also learned that choices have consequences. And every one of us is where we are by virtue of choices that we have made today. And your tomorrow will only change if you start making adjustments to those choices. So, fast forward, I wanted to go to school. And in grade 6, suddenly my dad pulls me back and says, "You are coming to school in Nigeria. You are going to write JAM." I didn't know what JAM was, so I flew in one day, took the JAM, and flew out. But because I had given my life to Christ, all I knew was Christ at that time, and that's all that mattered to me, and I was always reading the Bible back to front to back. Anyway, by the time JAM was out, my score was 337. Wait, hold on. It's just the beginning. It's the power of choice. Now, God had helped me to remain so focused that all that mattered to me was what God said, and therefore, academically, I was just focused with my work. So not only that, but by the time my O-level results came, it was 6 A's straight. And now I was in university. I wanted to study engineering. My dad said, "No, you're studying architecture, power of choice." So I'm an architect today because my dad said so, not because I chose it. So I grumbled and I fought with my dad for 2 years. Very unwilling to study this architecture. But guess what? By the time I was graduating, I graduated first class honors, top of my class. Now, if it was my choice, what would I have become? I do not know, but God knew he was taking me somewhere. And then by the time I was finishing first degree, I wanted to do master's, and somehow I wanted to go to ABU. I didn't know why. Power of choice. God was orchestrating something. By the time I got there, I was barely 21. I met this young lady. She's my wife today. Power of choice. Power of choice. Power of choice. But long and short of it all, we founded this firm called El Mansour Atelier, which today is the foremost aviation consulting firm in Nigeria. We've been told we worked on 4 greenfield airports. All of them are operational. We are working on the 5th one now. Power of choice. What am I saying? When God is in a matter, all you have to do is let go and let. Basically is studying my scripture in the fellowship of believers, and God is doing the rest. Now suddenly there was an association called the Airports Council International, and this council is the association of all airports around the world. And somehow I joined, but one day I got a letter to say that they had created a new position on the board, and I qualified to be in the board. It's an elective post. Nobody knew me there. I was new. I said, okay, sure, why not? Guess what? Election was held. I won by 1 vote, and that's how I came to sit on the board. Power of choice. The Lord is ordering something. So when I went in for the first meeting, I sat down, I was wondering, what am I doing here? How did I get here? You see, when God is forming his battle axe, you don't know, it's just happening. Suddenly you find yourself somewhere, you are wondering, how did I get here? I don't run an airport. I've never run one, but I'm sitting amongst people and we are calling ourselves on first name basis. As if that was not enough. Before, next to it, we were told, okay, there's a world governing board, and suddenly I was elevated. There was another election, and this time I was unopposed, and now here I was sitting on the World Council of the World Governing Board of the Airports Council International. What am I saying? One key thing I learned was staying close to God and let God do the rest. Like I told you, I had 6 A1s. Now, when my children, my wife and I have 2 lovely daughters. So I told them, well, you are studying the scripture too, and you are reading it from Genesis to Revelations like I did when I was your age. The first one graduated, she had her 7 A1s. She finished reading her Bible through. The second one read her Bible through, she graduated, she had 8 A1s, so it's progressing. So the family is doing better, am I correct? When you follow the Lord, at the time I gave my life to Christ, it was not hip to be a believer. They said only ne'er-do-wells followed. But when the first class came and other things came, it became great to follow the Lord because good things happen to God's people. Beloved, you have the power to choose in your hands. God's way pays. I have seen it happen. So we sit down and we get calls from state governments to come and help them develop their things. We are not looking for them. They are looking for us. Why? Because when men light a lamp, they don't put it under a bushel. They put it out for men to see by the light. And that's exactly what God does. So when God was fashioning and taking us through the things that he was taking us through, only God knew where we would be today. So when I sit in those meetings and I'm asking myself, how did I get here? I know God had a plan. And that's only the beginning, because there is a better and a greater tomorrow. So you are sitting down listening to me here. Why? Because I have listened to God and he's brought me here. And that will be your story too. May God bless us all.